If you focus on Manchester United and Liverpool and their history and everything that they have built within the communities and then, of course, built on that brand internationally, well, how was nobody involved in this? How did nobody stop and say, do you know, this is not going to be received well at all? Where was that voice in the room?
Well, there's nobody in that room because Ed Woodward has worked for the Glazers predating Man United. You know, he was on at JP Morgan. He was an investment banker that helped deliver the takeover to the Glazers. So he's not a football man, and there's not enough football people at Man United or at Liverpool. I mean, there are people at Liverpool, people like Kenny Dalglish, but I'm not sure they have the ear of the owners. So those people aren't there to say, this won't look good, this won't work, you can't drive this through, you have to take in consideration the fans' feelings. Now, the Glazers have never, ever considered the fans' feelings. I did laugh at the weekend when I read the Joe Glazer statement, and he said that this new Super League will enable, you know, the clubs to spend even more money on world-class facilities. If anyone's been to Old Trafford during the Glazer regime, they'll realise that they haven't spent a penny on the ground. The leak is roofing at Old Trafford. I was at the Manchester Derby last season and there was rain coming through the roof. They haven't spent a penny. Tottenham have got a new ground, Arsenal have got a new ground, Man City have got a new ground, Liverpool have spent big on their ground. The Glazers haven't spent a penny, so they don't care about the fans. They never have. So if Ed Woodward has been part of that regime for the last 15 years, he doesn't care about the fans either. And for Joe Glazer to come out and say what a massive success Ed Woodward has been as chief exec of Man United, it's nonsense. He's been there 8 years. David Gill was there for 10 years as chief exec and he won everything. In Ed Woodward's time in that role as the man who runs the club on a day-to-day basis, they've won 3 major trophies. The trophies that nobody really cares about anymore. And they didn't win the Premier League or the Champions League. He sacked 3 managers, wasted so much money it's hard to add up. And Man United is still nowhere near where they need to be. They're the second in the league, but they're not going to win the league title in the next 2 or 3 years. They're miles behind. So for Joe Glazer to say that Ed Woodward has been a success is ridiculous. It was a success prior to his current role by, you know, generating money as Man United is the richest club in the world. But I think if you're the commercial manager at Man United, you're pushing at an open door. You're not pushing at an open door when you're trying to sign players and you've got football agents who can run rings around you, basically, which is what's happened. So, you know, Man United, they need a complete, as Ed Woodward would say, a cultural reboot. But with the Glazers in charge, it's not going to happen because the Glazers will look around the room and they'll find another, like I say, an investment banker or somebody that's more in tune with the commercial world than football. So I don't see United getting any better anytime soon, unless the Glazers sell. And let's be honest, it might be better the devil you know, because who knows who will come in after the Glazers.
Craig brought up the point, Mark. Obviously, these are people, not just with United, but all of these people involved in the Super League, hugely successful businessmen. So how did they get this so wrong?
Because they're surrounded by hugely successful businessmen, self-made men, arrogant people maybe, that don't care about the fans. And Craig made the point, you know, these owners don't turn up to the ground. You know, Sheikh Mansour is celebrated at Man City. He's been to 1 game in 13 years. 1 game. John W. Henry hardly turns up at Liverpool, apart from the Champions League semi-finals or the games where they're going to win the league. The Glazers hardly ever turn up. Abramovich can't turn up at Chelsea anymore. I've never seen Joe Lewis at Tottenham. Stan Kroenke doesn't go to Arsenal. So how are these owners supposed to know what the fans think? Because they never go. And they never listen. They never communicate. The Kroenke and the Glazers never say anything.
I think that, Dan, the problem with these businessmen, which we can respect for what they've done in business, the problem with these people, they can't spell 2 words. That's passion and love. They don't get that. And that is not a part of their business. And that is fair enough, but then they should stay away from football and just do what they can do best. We would love to be businessmen, but we can't do that. We don't have the knowledge. Then we should stay away from that. But then we need to have authorities. Then we have to look at the Premier League. We have to look at the leagues around the world. How are they organized? If you saw when the pandemic started, which league was the first one to start? That was the German league. Why? Because Christian Seifert, the head of the Bundesliga, he managed to make a deal or a concept saying how much football is needed for people's life in Germany. You are isolated, you have lockdowns, but you need that passion. You need something to look forward to. You need someone to talk about. And that's what we have to look at as well. Okay, let's have a big go at the owners, and we should, but also have a look at the authorities that kind of let these people be there. and we'll see if we can regulate that. I don't know, but let's see if we can do something with the licenses. Let's see, like I said at the beginning of the show, that we can see if it's possible to get this 50+1 in some other leagues as well, because it's functioning in Germany, and Germany at the moment as one of the winners of the Super League circus.
Gab?
I completely agree. And I think, one of the key things here is that different people did this for different reasons, like I said before. I don't... Florentino Perez, if you poll Real Madrid fans, they were in favor of the Super League. That wasn't the issue with them. So I think in some cases, they were responding to what their own fans wanted, but still they showed a failure of understanding the whole market, how it works. The minute Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund call themselves out, as well as Paris Saint-Germain. And again, we can be cynical about this. We can say, well, Paris Saint-Germain only did it because, Nasser Al-Khelaifi's day job is much more important than that, and he runs beIN Sport, and Qatar Airways sponsors the Euros, and whatever. Whatever the reason is, you're going to try to do a commercial venture without two of the richest, biggest economies in Europe, without Germany and France? Really? You really think that's going to work? And I think it's situations like that, it's missteps like that I think hurt people. And if you're talking about, how these clubs are ordered, why some of these clubs have so much debt, it's because there was a lack of oversight and regulation in many leagues. I was speaking to the owner of a club in Italy, not one of the ones that's involved in this, and right now there are 4 Serie A clubs who are completely up to date with their payments to players. The other 16 are not. And based on the rules, the other 16 should be docked points. They shouldn't be allowed to play. Oh, but there's a pandemic, so they let this slide. And so the debt accumulates. Juventus bought, they bought Federico Chiesa, right, in the summer. That's what we read. They didn't buy Federico Chiesa. They loaned Federico Chiesa for 2 years. They spent 10 million over 2 years to secure him. And then, as long as they finish in the top 4, then they stump up another 50 million and they acquire him. They can't pay for him outright now because they don't have the cash. How did they get into that situation? Again, a lack of oversight, a lack of regulation, and a lack of transparency. And there has to be a willingness to enforce rules as well. I don't want to reopen the financial fair play PSG Man City situation, but a lot of people look at it and say, oh, look, they weren't following the rules and they got away with it, rightly or wrongly. I don't need to follow the rules either. Who cares? I'm too important. I'll bring my lawyers in. I won't follow the spirit of the law. I'll follow the letter of the... that way. I'll follow the letter of the law. This is the attitude that's out there. And that's how these clubs get themselves in these situations.
The other thing as well, just briefly, and I did see some people talking about this, was, and I don't know how much credence it's got, but also, and I know the early stages of the Champions League in particular can be somewhat frustrating with the mismatch at times, but I know that's up for change and it's going to be changed. But there is some excitement for people to see teams pitch together at the latter stages of the competition. Bayern have got Liverpool. Oh, my God, Juventus have got, PSG, or City have got PSG. Rather than just through this sort of plastic league that they try to put together where, all right, they're playing this week and they're playing next and they're playing then, they're playing. We know they're going to play. And so for the supporter, there is some anticipation about not seeing these games played against these teams all the time. And it comes at a very important stage in the season, and it's something to look forward to. And it's interesting, and it's something new rather than something pitched together. And I think for some people, I think eventually this maybe I'm wrong, but I think this kind of format eventually potentially could have gone stale anyway, just because you get the same teams playing the same teams with a few of the riffraff, so to speak, coming in. So, it's been a hell of a 40 hours of a shambolic performance from all these teams involved.
Mark, is this going to be like the 39th game, for example? Is it dead? Are we never going to talk about a Super League again?
I think that's wishful thinking. I think it's dead for now. I think it'll come back in some shape or form in the future, and maybe a more workable format which involves more clubs, more countries. Florentino Perez might have given himself away by talking about how football fans are bored, football needs a restart, needs refreshing. Well, maybe they're bored because they're sick of the same old teams in the Champions League every year because it's become a closed shop already. Maybe UEFA, maybe the idea going forward is to make it a more open competition whereby there are more teams from different countries that can generate more interest. So who knows? But I do think that it'd be naive to think that this is gone forever. I think the 39th step was an even worse idea, and that's never come back. But I think the Super League, it's been floating around for 50 years, as Gab will tell you, and it's one of these that will come back again. But I think next time, hopefully, they've learned the lessons of the big mistakes they've made this time.
Gab, Mark just highlighting how old you are.
Didn't know.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.